So we've just finished watching Wild Blue Yonder and the Doctor Who Unleashed episode that followed it, and I have some thoughts. My first thought is it's a very good Doctor Who episode. However, I don't feel like it's necessarily a special, if that makes sense. It feels like a solid mid-season, like, here's some hints at the big bad kind of story. It doesn't feel like the middle of 360th anniversary specials. I think the tension was really, really well built. I enjoyed the monsters. I always love that which one's the real one, but I think the added element of sometimes the audience didn't know who was the real one really built that tension and really added to the stress of what was happening. And I think it's, at the very beginning where it wasn't overly clear that there were doppelgangers on the ship, where the Doctor and Donna were in separate rooms, I thought that was brilliantly done. Myself, my partner and my dad were all looking at each other like, hang on a second, that's not right. And I think it was just built up brilliantly. And the background of that robot's there, but you didn't know what was happening with it. I think all of it was really, really well done. The added stress of the Doctor can't think. He can't think because they're copying him. They're thinking more through him, and he can't. And just watching that effort on David Tennant's face, it was brilliant. And I think David Tennant and Catherine Tate deserve all the props for this episode, having to act two different roles. They did fantastic work here, and I think they really shone through. However, despite all this, like I say, it feels like a mid-season episode. It doesn't feel like the middle of two major. Well, I thought this was going to be a major episode within the trilogy of these specials. I thought first we'd have Donna, coming back and all that. This episode would be a big setup for the toy maker. And, you get the line about the salt. And maybe that is the setup for the final episode, or we were theorising that maybe it's the cold open with Isaac Newton, the Mavity, that is what is going to bring back the toy maker. But it didn't, I don't know, it just didn't feel like a special episode of Doctor Who to me. We know that this next final episode, or we hope, is going to be the regeneration episode. So it's like, it just feels a little out of place to me. I just feel like it's not a special 60th anniversary episode. I don't know how else to explain it. I have to say, I did absolutely love seeing Bernard Cribbins and Wilf. We all it was really touching. I don't know if he's in the final episode. I get the feeling that he isn't, based on what they were saying in the Doctor Who Unleashed, which I think is a real shame, but I understand due to his age at the point of filming, he probably didn't have the energy to do much more than what he did. So to have that brief moment of Wilf at the end of this episode was an absolute gem and the perfect way to round off this episode. And like I said, I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a fantastic episode of Doctor Who, but as a 60th special, I don't know whether it really fitted in with the other two. I guess after seeing next week's episode, that feeling may change, but we'll have to see what happens in next week's episode to really get a feeling for how this episode fits in. And I'm really curious to see whether they are going to go back and sort out the Mavity with Isaac Newton, whether that is, as I mentioned earlier, what we theorised to be what's going to cause the toy maker, not the salt, or whether it's just going to be this weird little one-off gag that they had as a cold open. At the time of watching the episode, I was very confused by it. I felt it was very odd. So I feel like in the next week's episode, they're going to have to resolve that, or there's going to have to be something done with that. Otherwise, it just feels very out of place and weird. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Wild Blue Yonder?